functions, we added this function called fin assign con tuning when we talked about tuning policies, and we ran this fin assign con tuning function when we first added it, and it doesn't constantly run. So if you ever add new points, you can rerun this fin assign con tuning app or function in Folio. But it's basically saying if it's a sensor, apply the fast sensor tuning policy. If it's a command, apply the medium command policy. If it's a set point, apply the slow set point policy, as long as it has not already been assigned a tuning policy. Settings we've looked at a little bit. Extensions, there on the right side there are different modules, and if the number is the version, green means it's enabled, red means it is not enabled. And so there is this ASIC extension. If you ever wanted to use IntelliFront to communicate with ASI protocol controllers across Ethernet, everything we've been doing has been BACnet related, and the BACnet extension is enabled and turned on. But if you ever want to enable an extension, just click on the box, or actually click on the text, and then you can choose to enable it. I think most of the ones you need are enabled by default, other than perhaps the ASIC extension. So I don't think you'll need to go into here often, but that's where you can find those things. Project we looked at briefly. That's where you could change the name of your project that you see in the host app, as well as the description. Audit settings, we set those, and to view them, you can view them in the Folio app. And in your virtual training files, I think, there's this audit log.txt file that has some queries you can run. Some of these are from version 4.5. And so I think these ones near the bottom are ones that I use most often. So if I go into the Folio app and launch it, then I can take, by copying out of the audit log, invoke is related to like overrides. So if I copy that line with the invoke text, paste it in my query field, and hit enter, and enter, then that shows me whether it's a set point change or an output override. It'll give me kind of a timestamp, and it will also show me who issued that command. So that's one type of query you can run. And the other one that you can use is audit. I think that one still works. I paste that one in here, enter. Yeah, so that gives me a little bit more information. That shows me that I've changed some schedules by making them schedulable. And notice it's only showing me 25 at a time. So this is a more complete list. And then I think the session one shows me who logged in, who logged out. So the session one, I can see who logged in with what and logged out with what username at what time. So there's just some ways you can go through and see what kind of activity has recently occurred. Let's see what else is in settings. We looked at project. And so I'm going to do alarm real quick and then come back to header. So alarm, there's that alarm pull rate in seconds, and then disable alarm notifications. You might have seen like the little pop up below bottom right. If you don't want to see those, you can disable them. And so settings header is referring to the nav bar. It can actually serve kind of double duty where you can toggle it back and forth. Instead of being the traditional nav bar, it can also be used to kind of be a navigation to jump to different graphics. You can open pages in new tabs for some online resources, stuff like that. And so if I go to menu, settings, header, then I can edit my header. Actually, that's a button called edit header. So there's the home button, which you can map to look at a specific graphic, maybe not your top level graphic for some reason. So if I wanted, I'll just do this as a start. I'll make a graphic. So I clicked on home button. I chose it as graphic and apply. Then it says, what graphic do you want? Maybe I want to show the floor plan for floor 1. Apply. So now if I refresh my page, now that I've added something to the custom header, notice that this part looks the same in the nav bar, but all the way to the right, now I have this little kind of refresh-ish type icon. So that toggles the header to be a different function. See, so now I have this home edit header. It still shows me the nav location here, but I don't change it there. So now if I were to click home, it goes to the first floor plan because that's what I assigned to the home page on the custom header. But then you can build out different buttons, and those buttons can have drop downs, maybe to go to different VAV zones as an example. So there's this edit header button, which makes it easy to edit the header while you're developing it. And so if I click edit header, here's a list of buttons on my custom header. So the home one is the first one. Edit header was a built-in one that I could delete later if I want. And I'll show you how to do that. But I could add new buttons. So I could add a button with the plus add button. Then for this new button that I've added, I could set the display name. Maybe I call it AHU5 and apply. So there's my new name. So I could give it an icon. There happens to be an AHU icon if you just type AHU. Apply. And then you can set a link, which is what do I do when they click that button. So if I click on set link, then the link type can mean go to a graphic, hit apply. And then I can choose a graphic, such as my AHU. And then I can choose a target, such as AHU5, and apply that. And the header doesn't update as you build things. You have to reload the tab every time you edit the custom header. But now if I reload that tab and toggle the custom header view, notice there's my Air Handler 5 button. There is my icon. So then I can just click there and it goes to the Air Handler 5 page. It can also be kind of similar to favorites. It can also be a drop-down menu. So I might have VAVs with VAV 102, 103, 104 underneath it. So I can edit the header. I can add a button on the right. I could set its display name to be first floor VAVs and apply. I could set its icon. I'll just choose that anchor just because it's easy to find. And I don't need a link because it's really just going to be a drop down. So what I do want to do is add sub-menu buttons to the first floor VAVs, kind of top level button. So if I add a sub-menu button, then this new sub-menu button, I could set a display name like VAV 102 and apply. I'll just choose that set icon, that anchor one. It's easy to find. And then I could set this link to go to a graphic with the link type, apply, choose my graphic as my VAV, targeted at training VAV 102, apply that. Now VAV 102 will go to the appropriate graphic. So if I go back, now I have this VAV 102 submenu button. There's the icon that I chose for it, the anchor. Then I could add another submenu button for 102 and finally a third submenu button for 103. So first floor VAVs, add a submenu button, set the display name to be VAV 103, apply, set the icon to be the anchor, apply, set the link this time to be a graphic just like before, but when I apply now, I want to choose the VAV graphic targeted at VAV 103. Then I go back, now I've got buttons for 102 and 103. I can add a third submenu button with the display name of VAV 104. Set my icon to be that anchor. Set the link to go to a graphic. My VAV targeted at 104. So now if I reload my whole page, toggle over to the custom header. Now there's first floor VAVs has a drop down for VAVs 102, 103, 104. So one thing I like about the custom header is you can get to your pages with, a minimal amount of clicks. So no matter what graphic I'm looking at, I can go pick my VAV. I don't have to nav to pick the right floor and the right VAV. I can just come up here, pick the one I want, and it jumps through. A couple other things. Sometimes if you want to link to online resources, you can do that. Let's see if I can get the syntax right. So I'm going to click Edit Header. So here's my list of buttons. So I'm going to add a button, set the display name as asicontrols.com, apply, set the icon. Is there something? There you go. Browser, apply. And so setting the link says what I do when they click the button. So if you set the link and choose action, I think it's window.open, open parentheses, open quote, http://www.asicontrols.com, close quote, close paren. I think that's right. The key there is that it's an action. Then I hit apply and reload and toggle. And so there's asicontrols.com. Then it opens in a new tab. So when you get out of IntelliFront app, I like to open in a new tab because there is a choice. If I edit the header, add a button. I'll just set the display name here as ASI controls URL. Apply it. Set the icon. Browser. Apply. So there is an option to set the link to a URL where you can just type http www.asicontrols.com. But when you choose the link type as URL, it just opens it in the same tab, which I like to keep people in the IntelliFront app. And if I leave it, I like to open in a new tab. So if you just choose the URL, see now this tab that is showing me IntelliFront now, when I click the URL type link, it goes to the right page, but now all of a sudden I'm out of IntelliFront, and it's like, whoa, how do I get back in? And you could go back, but I like opening it in a separate app, a separate tab, because then it's always easy to get back into doing normal IntelliFront stuff. So that's the difference between the action with window.open as opposed to just the URL. So I prefer the action. This edit header button is nice to use while you're editing it because you don't have to go into menu and settings and header and edit. But when you're all done with editing the header, I don't like it to be here because then users might click it, and who knows what'll happen if they click it. And so you can delete that, but sometimes it's helpful to be able to add it back. And so what I'm going to do before I delete it is I'm going to click on my edit header button here on the right and click edit and look at the link. And if I capture this link field here, all this text, so edit header action equal, because that's an action. So now that I've captured that, I can go to edit header and remove it. Yes, I want to remove the button. And so now if I reload, I don't even think toggling and coming back does it. No, you have to reload the whole tab. So now it's not there anymore. So that's good so that my users don't see it. So I can go pick a VAV, pick an error handler, pick another VAV. But if maybe I added the second floor and I want to be able to quickly edit my header, I can add a button here to restore the edit header item to my custom header. So when you don't have edit header here, you have to go menu, settings, header. So here's the edit header menu on the right. So then I could add a button, set the display name to edit header. I'll set the icon. It was some kind of gears, I think. So I'll type gear. I think it was more that one. And then if I set the link to be an action, I think it's probably still on my clipboard. There's that information that I copied. Apply that. Then if I refresh my tab, toggle my header, now it's here, but it's on the right. Maybe that's good enough. But if I want, you have the option to reorder buttons too. So edit header, as you add new buttons, they end up on the bottom. But you can reorder buttons and choose edit header and move it up in the list, and up in the list, and up in the list, and up in the list. Now if I go back at the top, refresh my tab, toggle my header, and now it's back here where it used to be. So if you want the users to see the custom header when they first log in, that is a user option that we saw briefly, but I kind of skipped past it to say and mention that we would talk about it towards the end of the day. So if I go into the host app, I'll close some of these other tabs and go to my users. I'll go to the mic user and edit him. So there's this use custom header as default that I'll change to yes and save it. And so now when that user logs in, he'll have the custom header as the default header. He could still toggle back and forth, but the initial view will be the custom header. There is also, as part of the user options, this home path, and that's where if you wanted to give somebody a unique home page, that's not the top level graphic, you can do that too. So I'm going to log out and log in as Mike. Is it capital M-I-K-E, capital F2020 exclamation. Log in. Now, a lot of times you don't want your user to start out in the host app. You want them to immediately jump in. A lot of times it's just a single project. And so if you want to avoid that, I'll open the project. Notice in this URL, there's the kind of the name of the computer and the port number. Then there's Fin Mobile. And then there's this November training, which is the name of my project. If that's the page that they start out on, then when they log in, it'll jump to that project immediately. So if I copy that, I don't want this pound frame, it's everything up to the name of my project. So now if I log out and then choose this new, actually I'll close this just to make it more obvious. If I then paste that in and press enter, now I get this login page like I normally would. And in fact, this doesn't look much different. But when I go to Mike and M-I-K-E capital F2020 pound, now when I log in, oops, it's lowercase Mike, isn't it? Now notice it immediately jumps into the November training project. So if you declare your project folder name in the initial page that you're viewing, then it knows to jump into that project. But there may be a case where I care more about the first floor than the building level graphic. So I want to have a different home page. So the way you can do that is go view the page that you want to see. And then this is sort of the dividing line here, right? We saw that up to November training is the project name. Then there's this pound frame with a bunch of text to the end. So if I copy everything to the right of the November training project and copy that, then if I log out and log back in as a super user that can edit user settings, then I can go into my users app. I can go to my edit user, and in the home path, I'll paste that. And it's a bunch of extra text, but it starts with pound frame, and then there's a bunch of information beyond that. So now if I save that, log out, then I will log back in with that November training. What was that? Localhost November training. Now if I do Mike, M-I-K-E 2020 pound, or exclamation. Now I log, Mike F 2020 exclamation. Now it goes into the November training project, but goes to my home path. And again, the home path is, you don't put the beginning, you skip the part that has the name of the project in it. But right here, so everything from the pound sign all the way to the right, that is part of the home path. So that's how you can give a user a different home page. And then also notice that he's getting the custom header by default, but he can still toggle to the traditional nav bar. So I think custom header, I find that useful. It can make navigation easier. It can also, it can take the place of a lot of hyperlinks. So you don't have to put buttons on the pages.